He thought it was normal, until the day his world split open and nothing made sense anymore. Michael had grown up in a house where silence was heavy and anger lived just under the surface, but as a child, he assumed every family was like that. He thought slammed doors, tense dinners, and nights lying awake listening to muffled arguments were just a part of growing up, a quiet tax everyone paid for the privilege of being alive. He told himself everyone must be pretending at school, smiling in the hallways while carrying the same burdens he did at home. It was easier to believe that pain was universal than to imagine his life was unusual, or worse, broken. For years he carried this belief like armor, convincing himself that discomfort, fear, and shame were nothing but ordinary. That is, until the day something happened that cracked his illusion wide open. It started on a bright afternoon when he was 13. His best friend Daniel had invited him over after school. Daniel's house wasn't much bigger than Michael's, but it felt like another universe. There was laughter in the kitchen, the smell of dinner simmering, and his friend's mother asking about their day as if the answer truly mattered. Michael sat there, hunched in his chair, baffled by the warmth and ease with which everyone spoke. Daniel's little sister came bouncing in, showing off a drawing, and instead of brushing her aside, their father knelt down and praised her work with genuine delight. Michael's stomach tightened, his mind spinning. Was this real? Was this how families were supposed to be? For a moment he felt like an intruder in a place he wasn't meant to see, as if he had stumbled onto a secret stage play where love was the script. On the walk home, Daniel laughed about something trivial, but Michael couldn't laugh. His chest ached with the realization that maybe, just maybe, what he had endured all these years wasn't normal at all. That seed of doubt grew quickly. Once planted, he could no longer unsee the differences. He noticed how his classmates casually mentioned family game nights, or how teachers spoke kindly about their children without a trace of bitterness. He realized that the tight knot in his stomach when his father's car pulled into the driveway wasn't something everyone felt. He began to wonder why his mother rarely smiled anymore, why she flinched at sudden noises, and why meals were eaten in silence, each bite heavy as if they were swallowing secrets. He wrestled with guilt for even questioning it, because he loved his parents in the only way he knew how, but at the same time, resentment bubbled inside him. If other families could be different, then why couldn't his? Why did his normal feel so suffocating? The challenges mounted as Michael grew older. High school became a battlefield of contrasts. At school he tried to be like everyone else, wearing a mask of normalcy, laughing at jokes, pretending he wasn't carrying a storm inside. But the moment he crossed the threshold of his house, the air changed. His father's temper was unpredictable, a thundercloud that could break at the smallest provocation. His mother, worn down by years of it, moved like a shadow, avoiding conflict, avoiding everything. Michael often took refuge in his room, earphones blasting music to drown out reality, but no melody was strong enough to erase the gnawing ache. He struggled with grades, not because he wasn't intelligent, but because his mind was always elsewhere, trapped in the push and pull of survival. He couldn't focus on algebra when he was wondering if tonight would end in another slammed door or another stretch of wordless, icy silence. There were nights he cried quietly into his pillow, wondering if he was broken. He asked himself if maybe he was too sensitive. If maybe every teenager felt this way. Yet the memory of Daniel's house lingered like a haunting light, reminding him that life could look different. That dissonance became unbearable. He began to act out in small ways, skipping homework, snapping at teachers, isolating himself from friends. He thought rebellion might give him control, but it only deepened his sense of being lost. The turning point came one night when he overheard his parents arguing louder than usual. His father's voice was sharp, his mother's tearful, and Michael felt something inside him snap. For years he had been the silent observer, the one who kept his head down, but that night he rushed out of his room, shouting for them to stop. His hands were shaking, his heart racing, but for the first time, he let the truth spill out. That he was tired, that he was scared, that he couldn't keep living like this. The silence that followed was deafening. His father stared at him with shock, his mother's face crumpled, and for a brief moment Michael thought he had made a terrible mistake. But that confrontation, messy as it was, marked the beginning of change. It wasn't smooth, not at all. His father didn't suddenly transform into a gentle man, and his mother didn't magically regain her laughter. But the truth was out, and once spoken, it couldn't be buried again. Michael began seeking support elsewhere. A counselor at school noticed his struggle and offered him a safe space to talk. At first he resisted, unwilling to be vulnerable, but slowly he let down his guard. Through those sessions, he realized that his pain wasn't shameful and that he wasn't alone. Other kids faced similar challenges, and there were ways to heal. He began to understand words like toxic environment and emotional abuse, words that validated his experience. It was terrifying but also liberating. Still, the challenges were immense. His grades had slipped, and pulling them up required late nights and relentless effort. His friendships had frayed, and rebuilding them demanded honesty he had avoided for years. There were setbacks when his father's temper flared again, and Michael felt himself sliding back into despair. But each time, he clung to the knowledge that his reality didn't define his worth. He leaned on his counselor, on teachers who believed in him, on the rare but precious moments of kindness from his mother. Slowly, he carved out pieces of stability. One of the hardest moments came when he realized he couldn't fix his parents. For so long he had carried the burden of thinking maybe if he behaved better, got better grades, stayed quieter, or tried harder, things would improve. Accepting that their struggles were theirs, not his to solve, was both heartbreaking and freeing. It meant letting go of the fantasy of a perfect family, but it also meant reclaiming his own future. By the time he graduated, Michael had grown into someone stronger than he ever imagined. He wasn't unscarred, far from it, but he had resilience etched into his bones. College became a place where he could breathe for the first time. He surrounded himself with friends who valued him, professors who encouraged him, and experiences that showed him joy was not only possible but sustainable. He still called home, still carried love for his family, but he no longer let their storms drown him. He built his own shelter. Years later, when he looked back, he realized that the moment in Daniel's kitchen, the moment he first glimpsed that life could be different, was the spark that saved him. He thought his life was normal until that day shattered the illusion, and though it hurt deeply, it gave him the clarity he needed to fight for something better. He often shared his story with others, especially young people who felt trapped in their own versions of normal that were anything but healthy. He told them that recognizing the truth, though painful, is the first step toward change. That you don't have to stay where you started. That family isn't only about blood, but about the people who nurture and respect you. Michael's life became a testament to resilience. He carried scars, but he also carried wisdom. That pain doesn't define you, but what you choose to do with it can shape your destiny. He wanted others to know that it's okay to question what you've been told is normal, and it's okay to step into the unknown to build a healthier, brighter future. And so his story leaves behind not only the echo of struggle but also a powerful message, that no matter how broken the beginning, you have the power to write a different ending.